Chapter 1: Arrival and First Cracks. I never thought a luxury resort would become the stage for my unraveling. But the moment we pulled into the grand driveway, I felt a tremor in my gut. Something was off. My husband and I stepped out of the car, palm trees swaying, valet greeting us, soft piano music drifting from a distant lobby. For a moment I forgot all the tension that had built between us. He smiled at the concierge, handed over his name, and I followed behind. The doorman opened the massive doors, revealing a marble hall, a cascading fountain, and staff dressed in crisp white uniforms. He took my hand, kissed my cheek, and murmured, "Let me handle everything." I nodded, heart fluttering, reminding myself to breathe. In the resort's lounge, a welcome drink awaited us, chilled champagne with tropical fruit. I sipped mine slowly as he went to register us. The staff complimented us. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Carter. Enjoy your stay." I tried to hide my unease. His lips curved into a satisfied smile. As though he'd already won, we were led to our suite, a lavish, ocean-facing room with a balcony, sliding glass doors, and gentle waves brushing the shore below. I ran my fingers over the silk curtains and sank onto the plush bed. He watched me from the doorway. "You like it?" he asked. I nodded, though a part of me held back the real weight in my chest. Dinner was scheduled at 7 p.m. at the resort's specialty seafood restaurant by the pier. He suggested we dress up. I chose a flowy dress in blush pink. When I emerged, he paused mid-conversation with his old college friend, one I suspected he'd invited without telling me. He glanced at me, then resumed. I swallowed the flare of hurt and smoothed my dress. At dinner, the table was set right on the pier's edge, lanterns flickering, salt breeze dancing with my hair. As servers poured wine and brought oysters, we made small talk with the friend. But in his eyes I caught a flicker, something detached, calculated. I tried to shake it off. Then halfway through our appetizers, he turned to me with a carefully bright expression and said, "By the way, tonight there's a boat party for select guests. You're not invited." My throat caught. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice too steady for how I felt inside. The restaurant grew still for a beat. Candles flickered. He continued as though nothing was wrong. "It's just an adults-only thing. I thought you might prefer quiet evening in." His inflection was so casual, so practiced. "But I'll see you tomorrow morning." I stared at him, wine glass trembling in my hand. "Why not?" I demanded, though my voice quivered. He shrugged. "I'm sorry, I just made plans." And then he turned back to his friend to laugh like I'd never existed. Heat roared in my ears. The waves below sounded like a distant hiss. The candles blurred. I forced myself to calm the tremor in my bones. I took a breath, then spoke. "All right." I set down my fork. I didn't say more. I hated that he had achieved silence over me. Inside I could feel everyone watching. The friend's smile froze. The servers paused in their steps. I felt exposed, small, as if I were an intruder in my own life. My husband, confident, sipping his wine, unbothered, he had shifted the balance without raising a war. That night I lay awake. The balcony doors stood cracked open. Salt air drifted in. My mind raced. Why exclude me? What had I done that merited quiet erasure? I recalled every slight over the past months, the forgotten anniversaries, the offhand remarks about my emotional fragility, the way he dismissed my concerns about finances. They were small, but each had landed as a sting. I sat up and looked at him sleeping beside me. His face was peaceful. The moonlight painted half his face silver, the rest was shadow. I realized something. I could let this moment define me, or I could rewrite what comes next. I would not let him erode me in silence. I closed my eyes and made a decision. Tomorrow I would push back. I would take control of this narrative. And in the darkness I whispered to myself, "Show me who I really am." Chapter 2: The Boat Party and the Balcony. I woke up to the sound of seagulls and the low hum of resort music drifting from the poolside. The sun had barely risen, and my husband was already gone. His side of the bed was cold. No text. Just his absence echoing louder than any words could. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the waves roll in. Part of me hoped it was all a misunderstanding, that maybe he had gone for coffee or to the gym. But an alert on my phone shattered that illusion. A photo had just been posted to his story. Him, shirtless, laughing on a yacht surrounded by people I didn't know. Women in tiny dresses, men in tailored resort wear. He hadn't even tagged me. I stared at the screen for too long, unable to look away. My heart didn't break, it just hardened. By 10 a.m., I dressed in silence. A pale blue sundress, sunglasses, and a calm expression I didn't yet feel. I walked the resort grounds slowly, as if mapping the limits of my new emotional reality. Staff smiled at me kindly. Other guests, couples, families, moved in slow, happy motion. I felt like I was watching a play from behind soundproof glass. I passed by the pool and caught the attention of a couple of staff whispering near the towel station. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but one of them said, "Isn't she the wife?" I thought he came alone. I kept walking. Around noon, I found myself at the edge of the beach, where the resort's private dock led out toward the boats. Far in the distance, I could see a white yacht gliding through the waves, tiny figures dancing on the upper deck. I recognized his outline immediately, tall, confident, a drink in hand. He was telling a story, performing like he always did when he wanted attention. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just observed. I stayed on that beach for a long time, watching the boat shrink against the horizon. By evening, I returned to our suite. He still hadn't messaged. I sat out on the balcony and ordered room service lobster bisque and a glass of Chardonnay. The ocean was calmer now. The sky was bruised pink and gold, the way it gets right before night swallows everything. And then I heard laughter, his laughter, approaching down the hallway. The door opened with a careless push. He walked in, sunburned and smelling like rum. His shirt was open, chest red, hair windblown. "Oh," he said, surprised to see me. "You stayed in all day?" I didn't reply. I sipped my wine. He walked to the minibar, grabbed another drink, and started talking like nothing had happened. "You should have seen the party. So many people. Everyone asked about you." He laughed like it was a joke. "Told them you needed some spa time." I still said nothing. He looked at me then, finally, really looked, and tilted his head. "You okay?" I stood up. "Do I look okay to you?" He paused, unsure how to respond. "It was just a party." "No, it was a message," I said. Loud and clear. He rolled his eyes and walked toward the bathroom. "Don't start." I followed him with my eyes. "You excluded me." "In public. At a resort we booked together." He raised his voice slightly. I didn't think it was a big deal. "And that's the problem," I whispered. He slammed the door. I heard water running. I stood there for a moment, holding my glass, breathing in and out like I was learning how for the first time. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed on the balcony, watching the moon drift higher and higher above the water. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. But I was preparing something far more dangerous. Clarity. I began scrolling through my phone, looking at old photos, bank statements, emails. I saw things I had ignored, hotel confirmations in cities I hadn't visited. Duplicate charges on weekends he claimed to be working. Mysterious wire transfers. Patterns. I didn't know everything yet, but I had the shape of the truth. And the more I looked, the more I felt the heat of something I hadn't felt in months. Power. As dawn painted the sky again. I whispered to myself, "Let's begin." Chapter 3. Silent Moves by Morning. I had a plan. It wasn't a grand cinematic plan. No fireworks. No confrontations. Just small, deliberate steps that would lead him somewhere he never expected. The consequences of his own carelessness. I started with a phone call to my lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer, not yet. But someone I trusted. A woman who'd helped my sister draft a prenuptial agreement years ago. I told her carefully what I'd been seeing. The odd charges, the separate travel bookings, the inconsistencies. She didn't gasp or dramatize. She simply said, "Start gathering. Quietly. Don't let him know you're watching." So I did. That afternoon, I booked a massage at the spa, not for relaxation, but for access. While he spent his day by the pool with his new networking friends, I spoke with the front desk about our booking. The suite, I learned, had been fully paid by me, using our joint account. But when I asked about the yacht party, that was a private booking by Mr. Carter, the receptionist said. He upgraded his own package the night before check-in. He hadn't used the joint card. He'd used a personal one I didn't know he still had. I nodded, smiled, and thanked her. I took the information like puzzle pieces and slid them silently into place. Later that day, I changed my password to our shared cloud storage, deleted old permissions he had on my phone, and installed a discreet tracking app that sensed every location he tagged himself in. I wasn't stalking, I was protecting myself. Building a timeline. Back in our suite, he came and went like nothing had changed. At dinner, he talked about expanding his business, about potential investors he'd met at the party. I watched him talk, and all I could think was, he really believes I'm not watching. He thinks I'm weak because I didn't scream. That night, he wanted to be intimate. I told him I wasn't feeling well. He didn't push. He turned away, and minutes later, I heard him snoring. That more than anything disgusted me. He could exclude me publicly, humiliate me privately, and still expect access to my body like nothing had changed. I stared at the ceiling, the fan spinning above us like a slow, silent clock. Every rotation reminded me, I am not powerless. I am precise. The next morning, I went down to the resort cafe with my laptop. I set up a virtual meeting with my bank, transferred half of our liquid assets into a temporary holding account, and scheduled an appointment with a forensic accountant I'd found the night before. I also emailed my personal assistant back home. I asked her to quietly pull together every document my husband had filed under our business leases, vendor contracts, ownership claims. I needed to know if the hour he used in business meetings was actually his on paper. An hour later, she responded. Her message was short, but devastating. I don't know how to say this, but legally, you don't own any part of the company. He transferred your shares last year. Forged signature. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I just stared at the message and let it sit. He had removed me. Legally, financially, months ago. The resort, the party, the boat, it was just the emotional finale to a betrayal already in motion. But he had made one mistake. One massive, irreversible error. He thought I wouldn't find out. That evening, I played the role. We had dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the ocean. He toasted to new beginnings. I smiled, clinked glasses, and said nothing. Inside, I was already gone. When we returned to the suite, he stepped into the shower. I walked onto the balcony and looked out at the ocean, dark and endless. I whispered a quiet promise to myself. You stole from me in silence, so I'll take everything back the same way. And that night, I began writing an email to a woman I hadn't spoken to in years, his first assistant. The one he fired suddenly, right after our company restructuring. I typed, I think we both have something to gain from talking. Are you available tomorrow? I hit send. Then I slept for the first time in days. Chapter 4. The woman he fired, she responded within an hour. The message from his former assistant was short, almost clinical. Meet me at 9 a.m. at the cafe near the tennis courts. Come alone. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, not from anxiety, but from adrenaline. I spent hours rereading old texts, reviewing financial records, collecting screenshots. Every piece mattered now. Every breadcrumb he'd left behind was a stitch in the net I was about to throw over him at 9 sharp. I arrived at the cafe. She was already there. Older than I remembered. Her hair was shorter, her posture sharper. She looked up from her espresso and nodded once. No names, she said. Just facts. I sat across from her and waited. She spoke with practiced coldness. He used my login to access board documents after I left. Signed paperwork in my name. I have the audit trail. I nodded. He did the same with mine. Transferred my shares. Faked my signature. She didn't flinch. I know. He bragged about it to an investor at a conference. Didn't realize I was sitting 2 rows behind him. I stared at her. Why are you helping me? She took a sip of her coffee. Because he thinks women are disposable. You, me, everyone who's ever trusted him. She leaned forward. I have backups, evidence, emails, copies of contracts. I was careful even after he fired me. What do you want? I asked as she smiled faintly. Just to watch him burn. You can handle the rest. And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. By noon, she had transferred a folder of documents to a secure drive. It included time-stamped logs of access, legal documents with forged fields, and a list of vendors he had paid off likely to fake compliance audits. One document stood out. A digital contract that showed the exact date he erased my name from our company holdings, 3 weeks before our anniversary. Back at the suite. He was napping, laid out across the bed like he had no secrets, no shame. I sat on the couch, laptop in hand, and began assembling my next move. First, I contacted my lawyer again. With the files, she now had enough to begin formal action. We didn't file anything yet. This wasn't about explosions. This was about architecture. I wanted every detail placed perfectly before we flipped the switch. Second, I froze our joint account. Not all of it, just enough to cause confusion. Enough for him to notice something was off but not panic. Confusion would slow him down. Delay always worked in my favor. That night he suggested another party. Some new people I met from Chicago, he said. They rented out one of the private pools. I smiled. You go ahead. I'll join you later. He kissed my cheek, then left. I waited precisely 7 minutes, then called the front desk and asked what room his Chicago friends were staying in. The concierge hesitated, but eventually offered a floor number. It wasn't a party. It was a woman. Just one. I didn't need photos. I didn't need proof. I already had enough. I just needed to stay focused. Instead of storming after him, I called my assistant again. Prepare a press release draft, I said. For a personal statement. Public but clean. No names, just a quiet announcement of disassociation from the company, pending legal review. She paused. You sure? I said, yes, make it elegant but firm. The kind of statement that makes lawyers sweat. The next morning, I received an invitation sent to me accidentally from his assistant back home. A calendar alert for a confidential investor breakfast, scheduled 2 days after we returned from the resort. Topic: new solo venture. No spouse oversight. I laughed out loud. He was already cutting me out in public. Good. Let him feel safe. Let him think I was fading. That afternoon, I met again with his former assistant. She handed me a flash drive. This one's the real bomb, she said. Banking transfers to an overseas account. His, not yours. Dated months ago. I took it with both hands. When I returned to our suite, he was waiting on the balcony, wine glass in hand. You've been quiet lately, he said. Everything okay? I looked at him, the ocean glowing behind him like some grand illusion. And I said, everything's exactly how it should be. Chapter 5. Checkouty didn't sleep the night before we left the resort. But this time it wasn't because of fear. It was focus while he slept. Sprawled across the bed like a man without a single consequence ahead of him, I wrote a message. A clean, quiet statement that would go out to the press, to the board, and to every contact that mattered. After careful reflection, I've decided to step away from the company I helped build. While I won't be speaking publicly about internal matters, I am taking the necessary legal steps to address recent events. I remain committed to integrity, transparency, and the values I originally brought to this venture. It wasn't dramatic. It was devastating. The moment I hit schedule, I knew everything would fall into place, publicly, legally, emotionally. I didn't need to scream or accuse. I just needed to leave the door open and let everyone walk through it on their own dot. By morning, I was dressed before sunrise. A simple linen dress, flat shoes, a single suitcase. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched him sleep. For a second, just a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered how small he made me feel when he laughed at that dinner table. How he excluded me like an accessory he no longer wanted to wear. How he thought control meant silence, not partnership. So I stood up, wheeled my bag to the door, and paused. On the table beside the minibar, I left the flash drive. No note, no explanation. Just truth waiting to be discovered. Downstairs, I checked out alone. The concierge asked, "Will Mr. Carter be joining you later?" I smiled. "He's staying a little longer." I walked through the lobby slowly, savoring the marble under my shoes, the ocean breeze drifting in through the open doors. The same place that had swallowed me whole on the first day now felt small like a stage I'd outgrown. Outside, a car was waiting. My name on the sign. The driver smiled and took my bag. As we pulled away. I didn't look back. By the time he woke up, the press release had gone out. So had the legal notice. The one freezing his personal accounts. The one initiating a formal investigation into asset transfer fraud. The one naming him as a primary respondent in a civil suit. His phone must have exploded. I imagined him checking his inbox, scanning for messages from lawyers, board members, friends suddenly silent, and then finding the flash drive and realizing I had known for days. I had moved while he was laughing. Later, I learned that the board suspended him within 72 hours. His investors pulled out. His assistant quit. The Chicago woman disappeared. And me? I returned home, quietly, no announcement. I didn't need one. I moved into a small apartment by the lake. Just me, a desk, and a new notebook. I started writing again, something I hadn't done in years. Not business plans or investor pitches. Just thoughts. Truth. Story. One day, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single note typed, "You moved like a ghost. I didn't see you coming." There was no signature. I didn't need one. Weeks later, I walked into a boardroom, not the one we built together, but a new one. A different venture. A panel of women, leaders, builders, survivors. Someone asked me, "What advice would you give another woman who finds herself being erased?" I smiled, paused, and said, "Never rush your revenge. Let silence make the loudest noise." The resort? I never went back, but I heard they changed the locks on the suite, and next season, they started offering a new experience. Solo luxury packages for those who leave stronger than they arrived.